This conference will now be recorded.
Just to make sure our microphone is working, can anyone hear us?
Yes.
Perfect.
Roy, have we been advised by any of the commissioners that they may not be in attendance this evening?
No, sir, I haven't heard from anybody. You know, the only thing I know about is Mr. Monahan went by and there was a ridgepole not there. But I think he's fine, gonna be here. Speak of the devil, there he is.
Yeah, right now you got 6 out of 7, so.
The Magnificent Seven.
Yes. I don't see Aaron tonight.
She's there.
There she is. There she is. She was just hiding.
Well, it's 7 o'clock on a beautiful Thursday evening, April the 8th, and our regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Whoever happens to be pounding and thumping on their desk, try to either mute your microphone or so we can hear and identify. I guess like to first of all just welcome all and to introduce each and every one of the members of the Lago Vista Planning and Zoning Commission. We have with us this evening Richard Brown, Julie Davis, Larry Hagler, Don Jandro, Tom Monahan, our vice chair, and I was trying to see if Mr. Solomon's joined us. I don't see Mr. Solomon. Fortunately, didn't make the last meeting as well. Maybe he's on the phone. And I'm Gary Zaleski, the chair of your Planning and Zoning Commission. Thanks to Roy Jambor, our director of development, and Aaron Silvera, our city attorney. And a special thank you to David Williams, our council liaison. Thanks so much, David. And I guess what I would like to do first of all is just those individuals, when we are in the open part of our meeting, and when we open for the public hearing, I'd like for those people to would like to speak to keep their comments concise and try to stick to our 3-minute rule for their comments. First thing I'd like to do is, in regards to the Open Meetings Act, any citizen comments for any non-agenda items. If there's anyone out there that would like to make any comments regarding non-agenda items, go ahead and raise your hand, identify yourself, and have a chance to make those comments. Well, I don't see anything happening there. All right. I think, so we don't forget, I wouldn't want to be remiss at the end of this meeting. A special thank you to Alice Drake, the Secretary of Development Services, for what she had to do to put together those minutes for the month of December. It's quite the epistle. A tad more than maybe the four Gospels, for all we know. But anyway, thank you very much to Alice for her help. If we could, then we'll go ahead and move on to the very first item that's on our agenda this evening. That's item number 121-17-57-SP-E, consideration of a special exception application pursuant to section 11.60 of chapter 14 to allow an increase in the maximum height allowed by table A of chapter 14 from 15 feet to 19.83 feet for a single family residence at 2702 Cornell Cove, Highland Lakes Estates, section 7, lot 7030. And Roy, if you would give us your presentation.
Yes, sir. This is a single family residence by one of our local builders. However, it's not a spec house. I believe it's for their own use. It's where they intend to live themselves. They did a pretty darn good job of planning this thing. There's quite a few protected trees, and it took some real planning to save as many of them as possible. The driveway's a little close. There are a couple more that may not survive, but that's not a foregone conclusion yet. They for a pretty difficult site to get through there, they did a good job. I mean, they respected the intent of the landscape ordinance, and I think it's a good example of it doing what it's supposed to do. The only thing that they might have done to lower the house ever so slightly would have been to eliminate the kids loft, but quite frankly, they'd still be here because it would still require about 2 more feet than the ordinance would allow. So it's not like making that change would eliminate the need for this application. Like I said, other than that, I didn't see anything about the views that were, particularly significant where that, either the 2 or the 58 inches would make that much of a difference.
Thank you, Roy. Do any of the commissioners at this time like to pose any questions or comments to our Director of Development? Yes, Richard.
Thank you. Roy, as far as you know, is the location of the ridgepole at or near the high point of the ridge of the house? I had thought that the house was a little bit further back on the lot than where that ridgepole was situated, and in this instance, I don't think it affects my understanding of its impact on views, but I would have liked to have seen it at the high point of the ridge, if that is not.
I would not disagree with you. In all honesty, I saw the ridgepole before I actually rotated the plans, so that I could, I have to rotate them or else I get confused. So I have to make sure north is the same way my maps are. And I went out there beforehand but once I rotated them, I too thought maybe that the ridge pole's not exactly where it ought to be. And there's one later on that I'm positive it's not where it ought to be, but this one was not absurdly in the wrong place. I'm not sure this one made a difference.
I agree that it doesn't, as far as I can tell, it doesn't have any impact on views, but it was just a little hard to tell exactly where that house was going to be out there. Thank you.
I agree with you.
I do have a question, Roy. One of the letters of opposition is from Kevin and Donna Leatherman of Pflugerville, Texas. Can we tell anywhere what their actual property address is that they're saying it's going to be impeded?
Yes, ma'am. We can find those from the ID. The ID is on their letter, and that matches the map numbers.
Okay, thank you for calling that out. Got it.
5, 6, right. They're 5, 6, and 7, which means their property, you'll see it on the map, is the ones, they 6 and 7 are their submerged lots, and 5 is their regular address. They're the one right next door to the east.
And towards the lake, correct?
Well, it's not between this lot and the lake. It's next door to it.
Okay, thank you. I didn't see that 5, 6, and 7 notation on the opposition. Thanks.
You bet.
Roy, I had a question. Did you have any idea that stop work order that was still posted there back from October 5th of 2020?
Yes, sir. It had to do with excavation and that sort of thing.
They were excavating prior to.
Yeah, they were grading the lot and that sort. Yeah.
Okay.
That is an increasing problem.
So is there still a stop work order on that property?
Yes, sir. And that's the reason you can't do anything other than cut unprotected trees until you have a building permit approved.
All right. Thank you, Roy.
And the building permit can't be approved till you approve this. So.
Correct. All right. Yes, Don?
Yeah, it was my impression when I went there that the only people who might be out of view would be those in lots 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. However, we didn't have any comments from them. And regarding lot 5 looks both ways. I mean, you basically have the water wrapping around this as if it were a little peninsula. And I would say that they have views on both sides. So it doesn't seem to me that would be a valid complaint. And then lot number 3 says that it's blocking his view, but lot number 3 looks toward the water, and that would be looking back to him. So I don't know. It seems to me like only the lots behind it would be the ones that have some basis for a complaint, and they didn't complain.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, when I went out there, I'm not so sure that they're better view in between the trees in the other direction. But
could be.
You know, it wasn't 100% that it would, you know, because once again, you're talking about their side yards, not their front yards.
Right.
Tom, are you, did you want to comment? I guess not.
Now or after?
I thought I saw your hand up. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just holding them here.
Ah, in thoughtful prayer.
That's correct.
We need it all.
I have comments, but I figure I wait till after the hearing portion.
All right, thank you, Tom. I guess if any other questions to the staff, then we'll move on and ask for the applicant presentation.
Applicant ready.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, speak up some.
All right. My name is Toby. I've been in your P&Z meeting several times. Lauren Rayner, the owner of the property, has been a friend of mine for 20 years. I was in her wedding. And I don't know how much rodeo we have to go through here. I'm not trying to manipulate the 15 height restriction ordinance. I'm simply requesting the board to apply the.
I don't know if it's just me, sir. I'm having a very difficult time understanding. Are you the applicant?
No, I'm her friend.
Okay. Are you making the presentation for the applicant?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think we'll need to have your name and address, if you would, please.
My name is Hobie Lowell. I live at 2201 Patriot Drive. And I've met you before, Mr. Lazinski and Tom and Roy, obviously, too. And there's new people on here, but that's fine. Anyhow, in a nutshell, my wife is a rural mail carrier. She delivers mail out here. My kids go to school over here. Both of my kids do. And I'm not trying to manipulate the 15-foot height, restriction ordinance. I'm just asking that the board apply the height exception ordinance. And Roy, if I'm saying something wrong, I totally want you to interrupt me. You hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, yeah, interrupt me if I say something that's incorrect. But what I'm going to tell you is everything that's all facts. It's not an opinion. It's not my feelings or anything like that. And all the stipulations set forth in the application of the special exemption height standards, we're looking for 4 feet and 10 inches. We're not looking for 40 feet. We're looking for 4 feet, 10 inches. And I mean, I can go through the whole rigmarole if you guys want me to, because I've been through this rodeo before. But it's 4 feet, 10 inches. There's a 3-pronged test that you have to exercise to figure out if the site is actually applicable. The first test, I'm asking for 4 feet, 10 inches. And I'm going to show you a picture of this. This is 4, I don't know if you guys can see me. This is 4 feet, 10 inches right here. And I'm going to say I'm approximately 6 feet tall, plus or minus. The second bar, or the second thing we have to look at is, does the proposed house create any significant or adverse impact to the views created? Once again, we have to answer that question as no. There is no impact, let alone any significant or adverse impact on anyone's views created. The third test is, would a reasonable person agree that the proposed structure complies with the architectural context of the surrounding neighborhood? No, the answer to that is beyond all yes, because it exceeds it. And those are the 3 items those are the three items that we can consider. And it doesn't matter if anyone's thoughts or anyone's feelings, it's how the statute is written, and we have to follow the statute. Hold on. I just asked you guys to apply the facts only. This one is quite simple, and I've done this several times.
Okay, thank you, Hobie. Did any of the commissioners have questions for the applicant? Doesn't appear so. Either that or my microphone isn't working. Thank you very much, Hobie. If that's the case then, and there's no questions of the applicant, then we'll move on and open the public hearing at 7:18. And anyone out there that would like to comment, have questions during this part of the open public hearing? I don't hear anybody at this point. And if that's the case, it's 7:19 and we're going to close the public hearing. We'll now move into the discussion phase. Any of the commissioners? Tom, yeah, there you are. Go ahead, Tom.
All right, I was out there this afternoon, and my assessment is that the immediate area around that location is relatively flat, which in my mind, anyone that had concerns about the views are only the views that are blocked, that would be blocked anyway by the right of the owner to build his property to the height specified in the zoning district. And so if you add 4 feet to that, you're basically looking up. So really there's no view to be blocked, because what's allowed by right already would block any potential views that someone might be concerned about. And then finally, I just want to say it's good to hear from Hobie again. It's been probably well over a year wondering what happened to him. So other than that, that's my comment.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. Hobie, I guess we're hoping it wasn't COVID or anything keeping you away that serious. Was there another comment for the applicant or during the discussion here? Any other discussion from commission members? Don, did you have one?
I second what Tom says. You're right. It's flat.
Anybody really signaling?
Aaron, Aaron.
I think Richard was.
Yeah, and I do have to agree. I do have to agree. I was just wondering what maybe the seriousness of that stop work order was, but that's been pretty well clarified. Richard, were you trying to speak at this time?
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Is this a citizen request?
All right.
Hello?
Is there anyone that would like to make a motion at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I believe the gentleman on the phone, maybe it Mr. Solomon, is on caller 3 trying to speak.
Yes, Aaron. Yes, Aaron.
Aaron.
Yes, I believe we had a caller on the phone that was trying to speak. Did you catch that, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, it was about the height restriction. We're gonna go a foot and a half higher than the 15 because it's on a floodplain. Are you there, Aaron?
I think this gentleman is on a different application.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Hello.
Thanks, Aaron. I guess
Hello.
the public hearing was closed and we have ended discussion unless I see some kind of signal out there. And so I guess I don't see any volunteers, so I'll make a motion that item number 211757-SP-E, that the Planning and Zoning Commission of Lago Vista will approve a special exception to allow an increase from 15 feet to 19.83 feet of this item 1. Is there a second? I see Larry Hagler is second the motion. And I'll tell you what, we'll, any further discussion before the vote? No further discussion. I'll just go through the roll. Richard, you vote.
I vote aye.
And Charles Solomon is not with us. Is that correct? All right. Ms. Davis,
Aye.
Mr. Hagler,
Aye.
Mr. Jandro,
Aye.
and Mr. Monahan,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Passes unanimously with one absent commissioner. All right. Thank you, Hobie.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate everything.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to move on to a second item on our agenda, which is 21-1787-SP-E, consideration of a special exception application pursuant to section 11.60 of chapter 14 to allow an increase in the maximum height allowed by table A of chapter 14 from 18 feet to 23.62 feet for a single family residence at 21008 Stillwood Court, Country Club Estates, Section 9, Lot 2272. And Roy, if you would give us the presentation from staff.
Yes, sir. You had this same set of plans, if you will, on a previous application a few months ago. You know, it's not my favorite thing to do, to have a set of plans in front of you that may or may not include a second floor. But like the previous one, when you go around looking whether that would impact the views, in this case, it was even a little surprising that it didn't, because there was some slope here. But when I got to the property, it seemed like the better views were the ones that where you were standing in the middle of the street and not from anybody else's property. Now, if you go farther up the street, you get that same view from the, but by then it's not as good a view. So I was a little surprised that it didn't impact the views, but the reality is the impact was less than I thought it would be. You know, when you got down to examining the details of the site. And like
commissioners,
like before, I'm not sure this one is in the right place either, but that's
Well, we know it's not in the right
Commissioners,
place
questions?
now.
Right.
Yeah, I guess the majority of our items, just as a reminder that the commissioners would have to actually visit the site and make an observation of the ridgepole and views and so on. And it's my understanding, Roy, is this the property where now the ridgepole is missing?
Yes, sir. We've reminded the applicant that it's got to be back for another, for 2 weeks after your decision, if you do make a decision tonight. That is the requirement of the ordinance. And that's to accommodate appeals and that sort of thing.
Thanks, Roy. Any comments or questions of the commissioners to the staff? Julie?
Roy, I see noted in the package that the applicant owns another property within the 200-foot notification boundary. Do you recall off your top of your head which one that is? I don't see the ID number.
We'll give it to you. Hang on. It's the last one in the packet. It
This
is
is
26.
26, thank you.
Is anyone else having a problem hearing Julie? Is she breaking up on any of your end?
No.
No?
I'm blinded
Okay.
by the
Sorry,
sun. I
it must be
realized
on my end, Julie. I'm sorry, I didn't.
that my office is in the wrong part of the,
It looks like a halo.
I know, I can't see anything. I have to squint in. Sorry.
Maybe it's appropriate, the song Blinded by the Light, huh?
Yes, Don?
Yeah, my impression, the pole was there when I visited it. And as I'm reading this text, it seems that we don't know really whether there's a second floor being submitted or not. That's still a question, right?
Well, it may not be a question to the applicant, but it's a question to the staff.
Okay, that's what I thought. The only observation that I had, it seemed to me, and I didn't have in mind that he was trying to get a view of the golf course, but it seems to me like the only person with a concern about his view being harmed is the fellow across the street, and I see that he didn't submit anything. The only sort of thing that struck me was the invasion of privacy to the person next door, but I guess that's not our concern. Thank you.
Any other, yes, Richard?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that probably the house across the street that Don mentioned never had a view until all that cedar was removed. Because the next lot up the hill is densely covered with cedar, and the ground on the lot is densely covered with cedar trimming. And he probably hasn't been able to see anything but the sky until that lot was cleared. And now he's got a great view and probably will only be able to enjoy it for a short time. The general trending of that hill uphill, I think, allows everyone to see as much as they would have been able to see without the request for the additional 5 feet. I would like to say regarding the second floor plan that looking at the roof plan that was submitted, I do not see how they could build a 2-story house with that roof plan within the 23 feet limit that they requested. What do you think about that, Mr. Jambor?
Yeah, it's more of an attic space type room. They did it with a dormer type extension. You can do it. It's
Yeah, I agree that you could do that. It would not be a full story. It would just be a space under that
You're
rather
correct.
expansive roof.
Yeah, and that's the issue I have, not so much about the two that they've submitted it on, but let's say we had an application where it did make a difference and you've built this very steeply pitched roof to accommodate a second floor that you might not build. And that's the application I'm worried about, but we haven't had it yet. You know, this is the second time we've seen it and there was no view impacted.
Yes, well, and in that other case as well, they did not build a full second floor. They only wanted to achieve the space under the high roof for a little game room or maybe a bedroom.
Right. It was this exact same plan.
Yes, I recognized it. It was from over on Green Park.
That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I guess the only comment I would make is that my observation of the home across the street, the 21005, it appears that any kind of view that they seem to have is, I'm thinking it's more towards the west side of that house instead of the view they have now where the cedar trees have been removed. So I think there's a porch. It looks like they have some type of view on the other end of the house versus the front of the house. Any other questions of the staff at this point? All right, then if that's the case, we'll ask the applicant to make their presentation.
Hello, this is Brian Smith with Caledonia Builders. As most of you are aware, and we've talked about, this is the same plan from Green Park. It does have a bonus room upstairs with a dormer with just one single window for egress. So 80% of that room is under roof. Only a portion of it dormers out. So we are requesting the variance of a little over 5 feet. We looked at the site. We didn't feel like it was impeding anybody's views, even up on the cul-de-sac. That cul-de-sac is 8-10 feet higher than this lot, as the home across the street has a walkout garage. So that gives you an indication of the height of the living space on the street, the home across the street. You know, this is the same buyer from Green Park. We weren't able to build that home on that site due to some drainage concerns that were brought to our attention by the city. So this is exactly the same buyer, and they're wanting that bonus room for their child. So that's why we're asking for the variance. You know, we do the roof pitches in 812 and 612 not only to accomplish the bonus room, but to give some additional architectural elements to our homes. 312, 412 roof pitches. It's hard to achieve some good designs without doing single pitch roofs. So that is why they're a little bit steeper than our typical designs on a single one story, but mostly to accomplish a bonus room upstairs. So it is a 1.5 story. So it does have a set of stairs and it does have a room upstairs. So we're asking for a little over 5 feet. It was approved on the last one, obviously, for the very same reasons, that there was no view obstructions, and we're requesting it again. We will not be building this house on Green Park.
Thank you, Brian. Are there any comments, questions from the commissioners to the applicant? Yes, Richard.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, I commend your decision to move this, that building from that site on Green Park to where you ended up. You ended up with a really nice view lot and no flooding problems, which I am confident you would have had problems with on Green Park.
Yeah, we're definitely still working on that one, but we definitely don't want any problems for not only our neighbors, but our buyer as well. I would like to mention on the ridgepole, just to clarify, we did remove it today at 12 o'clock, not knowing that it needed to stay up for the rest of the day. Roy did inform us of the rules. We'll certainly put it back up first thing in the morning. That was an oversight on our part. But it's very difficult to move those ridgepoles with a single person. We did send one guy down there to move it, and it wasn't that far. So I don't know if anybody's noticed, but we actually had those custom made because the city did inform us that other builders are not using the proper, material to build ridge poles, and so we want ours to be sturdy and straight and level and in a good position so everybody can see it. So, but they are quite heavy and particular to move. But we did move it early, trying to get ahead of the game, and so we apologize for that. We'll get that back up.
On that note, how many of our commissioners were not able to see the property with a ridgepole missing? We have one for sure. Everyone else was able to observe with, I guess they did. I don't see anyone other than Tom, which is unfortunate. All right. Any questions, further questions of the applicant from the commissioners? If not, we're going to.
I think Mr. Hagler, is raising his hand.
Larry?
Yes, I just want to thank Pratt for telling us when that pole was missing, because I was there yesterday afternoon and I didn't think I lost my memory from last week.
No, you definitely didn't. It was removed at lunch today, at lunchtime today.
Thank you.
So
I would like to add that this is not a clear test that Mr. Hagler is not losing his memory, however.
All right. Any other questions, comments to the applicant at this time? All right. If not, then we are going to open the public hearing at 7:40. And any individuals out there that would like to take the time to comment regarding this particular item. I see there's a Jerry Rapp raising his hand. Yes, Jerry.
Yes, and good evening to everybody. I oppose this, and I apologize. Something happened to the email. This should have all been on the my comment section to you, but apparently it didn't get to you. But I just believe because where the house sits so close to the property line, that this house with the extension of over 5 feet, it's going to just create a box effect for my particular property. Because on the other side of me, it's terrace going up. So I'm going to have this large 1.5 story or 2 story on one side, and then of course the terrace part on the other side. So I would think that I would like to see it back to the original 18 foot, being that the current and that was, should have been known when the property was bought. And I think we should stick to that particular height restriction. And I'd like to see that upheld by the ordinance. So that's my comments on it.
Thank you, Jerry. Mr. Brown.
Mr. Chairman,
let's see if there's any other Mr. Brown, let's see if there's any other public comments before we open it up for discussion. You can come back to Mr.
This is relative to his comment.
All right, go ahead, Richard.
Thank you. Would you please ask Mr. Rapp to identify where he lives and the perspective from which he's speaking?
Yes, Mr. Brown, I own the lot 2271, and the lot on the other side of that, I believe it is 2250. But the lot I am concerned about is 2271.
Yeah, I think those are the lot numbers. Mr. Brown, on your map, I think it's 17 and 9.
That is correct.
And what was the number again, Roy?
It's the one right next door, number 17, and the lot behind that one on Outpost Trace.
Oh, okay.
17 and 9 are the two numbers on the boundary map.
All right.
So I'd like to comment on one part of that. One thing is you said that we're building so close to the lot line, it would box them in, but regardless of height of the home, any home can be built, over to the right side or the left side, so boxing another property in, it's that doesn't have anything to do with height in my mind, but we're building within the build lines of the property. So I just wanted to clarify that part. I mean, we're not impeding on his property, we're building within the property. So regardless of height, it's going to be on the right side based on the lot conditions of this lot. The back left corner drops off 12 feet. So whoever builds on this house with me or a different plan, it's going to be on that right side.
So whether it was built by right or the height exception, it's still going to be where it's going to be.
That's correct. Because of the site condition of that lot, it drops off in the rear left corner significantly, and there are trees down there that obviously we don't want to remove either, and build a foundation and remove trees.
Thank you. Any other public comments at this time? All right, if there's no other comments, then it's 7:45 and we'll close the public hearing and open it for discussion amongst the commissioners. Yes, Tom.
Before we actually close the hearing, I'd like to make an argument to continue the hearing. As you know, the ridgepole is gone. I was out there today to do my observations, and it was gone. And this property has several negative comments in the packet. So I wasn't able to evaluate it. And it would seem to me, and maybe Aaron can weigh in too, but it seems inappropriate to me to vote on something when currently it's out of compliance because the ridgepole is not there. And so if we do vote on it, my vote is no. That's the only thing I can do to vote is vote no. So I think currently the site is out of compliance because the ridgepole is not there when it should have been there for 2 more weeks. So my recommendation is we continue the hearing till next month.
Can we still
thank you.
Speak or no?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to see who's speaking.
So this is Ryan Parmley, and this is the client of Caledonia Builders. Can y'all hear me?
Yes. Inadvertently, we've closed the public hearing.
Okay. I mean, the ridgepole was up for 2 weeks. Is that correct?
Well, let me clarify. The ridgepole was taken down before the commission members were able to actually view. And the vice chair, Tom Monahan, is asking that I'm assuming, Tom, a table or a vote to postpone until next month, when you have an opportunity to review some of the comments and actually observe the ridge pole. And I guess that's kind of where we're at this point.
Okay.
Correct, Tom?
I do have comments. We've been waiting months. It was up for 2 weeks, and for 5 hours to continue this another month. I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. So I apologize, but I think that's ridiculous to continue that if that's what y'all decide.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Parmalee, but I think that's an issue, depending on where this ends up, that's an issue you'll need to discuss with your contractor. Mr. Brown?
I would like to say two things to Tom's comment. One is a quorum of 6 or 5, I'm sorry, 5, we're able to see the lot with the ridge pole still up. And that could be enough to take action. On the other hand, what Mr. Monahan raised a question about was the negative feedback from 3 commenters who opposed this project. I would like to say all 3 of those respondents live on Outpost, not on the street in question. And the impact on homes on Outpost, as a matter of fact, one of the homes on Outpost who opposed is not even on the side of Outpost that backs up to these lots. He is across the street on a golf course lot. So I do not feel as though any of those properties have standing in the matters of the 3 criteria that were recently enumerated for us by Hobie, that I think that the remaining commission members should have at least the opportunity to respond to this and maybe go ahead and make this vote.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We're still in the discussion phase of this particular item number 2. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Tom.
I guess I'd just like to ask Aaron about, I know it's a technicality because the ridge falls down, and compliance wise, it should be up for 2 more weeks. I mean, my vote is no. And being that I was there at the site, I can't vote and weigh in on a vote. But is there any, I guess, your opinion on whether or not this should be approved or not tonight because of that technicality?
So because the ridgepole was there for the majority of the time, and you have a quorum of members who were able to review the property at the time while the ridgepole was up, you can make a decision tonight if you choose to do so. You can also, if someone were to make a motion, you could table this item or postpone it until the next meeting to ensure that the applicant fulfills their obligation to put the pole back up and gives Mr. Monahan an opportunity to review or to view the property with the ridge pole. It really depends on who wants to make a motion and what motion that you make. At this point, Mr. Monahan cannot, because he hasn't viewed the property, he may not vote on consideration of a special exception on the application. Now, if there's a motion to table, he could vote on that, but he could not vote up or down on whether to approve the special exception if that's the motion that's made. So it really depends on who wants to make the motion, but it is, you do have enough members that have seen it that such that you could vote on the matter tonight. It just makes the number of folks who would have to vote affirmatively, the percentage that much higher to have an affirmative vote. So.
Thank you, Aaron.
So Mr. Smith has said he'll put the ridgepole back up tomorrow, but that if it gets approved tonight, it doesn't relieve that obligation, correct? You still have to get it
correct.
ASAP.
Yep.
It's definitely going back up
correct,
tomorrow
Roy.
morning.
Yeah. And we'll send Crystal to check it.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Any further discussion at this point? All right.
I'd like to
then.
say something.
Mr. Brown?
I would like to ask Mr.
Well,
Sir?
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say one last piece, if I could.
let the Commissioner Richard Brown speak first, please, Mr. Smith.
Well, Mr. Smith will be pleased to know that I'm going to give him the opportunity to speak because I wanted to ask him a question. Is the height of that roof at all negotiable?
So based on the bonus room above, so that bonus room is already at 8 feet with basically vaulted ceilings. Any reduction in the roof height would make that room unusable, unfortunately.
Well, there could be a space in the center of the room with a coffer or some other sort of detail that would give you the width that you're looking for and still have at least 8 feet of ceiling height in nearly all of that space. Is that not correct?
I don't believe so, because I did talk to our architect when we were looking at Green Park. And it makes, if you lower that to, whatever the next size is, it makes the side wall height go down to 4 feet, which essentially makes the room unusable on 4 corners just by the portion of where it sits. Then the dormer becomes a problem, which we need egress for a window for emergency purposes. Then that has to go away, but then it just becomes nothing. At that point you can't, by code do it. So we did talk about it on Green Park.
Okay, it's not clear to me
Mr. Brown,
why you go
Mr.
from
Brown,
8 feet to 4 feet in one step.
Well, so the 8 feet to 4 feet is
Mr.
we're
Smith,
already.
Mr. Smith and Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, are you trying to negotiate a lower height and asking him to change his application from his 5.62 feet?
Yes, sir.
Is that what we're attempting to do?
Yes, sir, I am.
Well, just to clarify, Mr. Jambor, wouldn't Mr. Smith have to make a different application, or?
No, you could approve lower, not higher.
We've done that in the past. We've negotiated lower roof lines with owners or contractors in the past without them having to reapply. It's
All right.
not clear to me why you can have an 8-foot wall height and any change at all changes the wall height at the edge down all the way down to 4 feet. But I guess I have to look more carefully at the drawing.
Well, that's because we're already at 6 foot, like 6'2" on the sidewalls. So when you change that, it just squishes that sidewall down even more dramatically.
So you already have a.
We are already vaulted, yes.
All right. Thank you. Since we do not have the advantage of a second floor plan, we did not know that.
Yeah, yep.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, any further discussion at this point? Any of the, is there a commissioner that wants to make a motion at this time? Well, kind of like the Wax Museum. Tom?
Yeah. I'll make a motion for item 21-1787-SPE-E be continued till next month.
Is that motion in order, Ms. Silvera?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Is there anyone want to second that motion?
I didn't think so, but I thought I'd just clear it out.
No, that's fine, Tom. I understand. So there's no second to the motion. I assume the motion fails since there's no second. Would someone like to make another motion? Well, I don't see anybody jumping right in. So regarding item number 2, which is 21-17, I'm sorry.
I saw Mr. Brown put his hand.
Well, his microphone was off. I'll start again. Regarding item number 21-1787-SP-E, that the Planning and Zoning Commission of Lago Vista approve the special exception for the property at 21008 Stillwood Court, Country Club Estate, Section 9, Lot 2272, of height from 18 feet to 23.62 feet. Is there a second to the motion? Seconded by Mr. Brown. Further discussion at this point? No further discussion. Mr. Brown, you vote to the affirmative, I take it?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And Ms. Davis?
Nay, Chairman.
Votes no. Mr. Hagler?
Yes.
Mr. Chat, yes. Mr. Jandro? I'm sorry.
Aye.
What was that?
Yes, yes.
Yes. All right. And I take it Mr. Monahan is not allowed to vote because of not being able to observe. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that's correct. He is not allowed to vote.
All right. And the chair votes in the affirmative. So that is of 6 present, 1 nay, 4 yay, and 1 unable to vote. So the motion carries. All right. We will move on to item number 3. That's 21-1797-SP-E, and that's consideration of a special exception application to section 11.60 of chapter 14 to allow an increase in the maximum height allowed by table A of chapter 14 from 18 feet to 20.71 feet for an addition accessory building at 4509 Rimrock Drive, Country Club Estates, section 5, lot 821A. And Roy, if you could go ahead and share your presentation with us.
Yes, sir. Hopefully we have either the applicant or his contractor here, but this is a detached garage on a piece of property that has an attached garage as well. And the gentleman wants to add a game room to the top of the garage. And so what you saw was a ridge pole basically nailed to the existing garage. And the second floor is going to be somewhat larger than the first floor of the garage. It took me a while to figure out exactly how it lines up, but I finally figured it out when I found out that the original plans for the garage were not built quite that large. That was what was confusing me. So once I was able to figure that out, it came together fairly easily. But we have it oriented and rotated so that you can relate it to the site correctly. Yeah, the deck is looking towards the golf course, not towards the street. So things like that. That was a little bit of a clue, but it's a marginal. You know, it exceeds the maximum height by a very small amount. And if it blocks anybody's views, it would be difficult to know from where.
Thank you, Roy. Any questions, comments from the commissioners? I see Mr. Brown has signaling for the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Jambor, we have among our accessory building criteria rules for approval, one is that the accessory building cannot be taller than the house.
Yes, sir.
Do we need to consider this under an additional ordinance than the one cited in their notes and comments?
Well, I mean, the way the ordinance reads is it can't be taller than the lesser of the height of the house or the height allowed by ordinance. And if it is, it's got to get the special exception approval, which is what they're doing. You follow me? So the answer is the house is right at the limit. This is higher than the limit, but this is the appropriate way to get the remedy.
Okay, thank you.
It used to be that you got it at the, the conditional use, but that's not true anymore.
Okay.
Any comments, questions of the staff? All right. Is there an applicant to make a presentation?
I saw the contractor today. He was going to ask the property owner to do it. Apparently that didn't work.
Well, if you want, I can run 3 houses down the street and knock on his door and see if he wants to join us.
Apparently the message didn't get through. I told him one of them needed to be here.
Mr. Chairman, I
right,
spoke with the contractor this afternoon, and I think he had every intention of being on this call. In fact, I provided him information on how to get the link for the website to get into this go-to meeting So I'm a little surprised that he's not here. So he knew he was supposed to be.
Thank you, Ms. Silvera. All right, so we do not have an applicant to make a presentation. I think what I'll do is we'll go ahead and at least open the public hearing at 8:07 and see if there's anyone that is present that wants to comment during the public hearing. And I don't see anyone jumping in. And so it's now 8:08. We're going to close the public hearing. And any discussion on the part of the commissioners? Tom?
Yeah, I'll just say this seems pretty straightforward to me, and again, it's relatively flat. The garage is kind of nestled in between some trees. There were favorable comments for it, and so I don't think there's any views to be impeded. So I would be in favor of this application.
Any way we should chastise the applicant for non-appearance?
I'm particularly disappointed. I was going to tease the contractor about how he could draw a room with no doors on it. And that I'm disappointed I don't have that opportunity.
Any other discussion on the part of the commission? I don't see any. Any of the commissioners would like to make a motion? I guess let me just one technicality, just to be sure. Ms. Silvera, there's nothing that would prohibit us from voting if the applicant did not appear.
No, Mr. Chairman, there's nothing that prevents you from taking action this evening.
That's what I thought. Thank you. All right. Once again, Tom?
Yeah, you ready for a motion?
Sure.
Okay. For agenda item 21-1797-SP-E, I make a motion that P&Z approves the request for a height exception to 20.71 feet.
Second.
It was seconded by, I'm sorry, I did by Don Jandro.
Yes.
And any further discussion at this time? All right. Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
And Mr. Hagler?
Aye.
And Mr. Jandro, since you seconded?
Aye.
And Mr. Monahan, since you proposed, I take it those are yays?
Aye.
And the chair votes, and that's 6 with 1 missing. All right. Motion carries. All right. Item number 4, 21-1798-SP-E, consideration of a special exception. Application pursuant to section 11.60 of chapter 14 to allow an increase in the maximum height allowed by table A of chapter 14 from 15 feet to 18.5 feet for a single family residence at 22023 Redbird Drive, Highland Lakes Estates, Section 24, Lot 24036. And Roy, if you would grace us with the staff presentation.
So, Mr. Chairman, apparently something's happened with Roy's mouse and he can't unmute.
His mouth?
The first time ever we'll be able to keep Roy from talking when it's not a good thing. Yeah, something happened to his mouse and he's not able to unmute. So unless y'all know a hotkey on how to unmute. Let me see if I can help
muted
you.
on my screen. It doesn't look like he's muted on my screen.
Yeah.
Let's go see. Let me go check on him. Be right there.
If you can hear us, go ahead and speak, Roy. I see it says your microphone's on. Well, in the meantime, it's kind of convenient because, well, I'll wait till Miss Silvera comes back and we have an answer.
Roy, but
They can't hear though.
they can't hear you. Okay.
I got.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay. I'm in. I still don't have a mouse, but at least I got this much talk. Yes, sir. This is the one where I'm almost positive the ridge pole is nowhere near where it needs to be. Nonetheless, here we go again. I don't think it has a lot of impact on the evaluation of the views. The increase in height was fairly minimal, and I couldn't discover a place where it would make a difference.
Mr. Chairman, can Mr. Roberto please mute his mic so we don't pick up the background noise?
There's, we're picking up a lot of background. Sounds like it's out in a windstorm. If there's a Roberto, maybe you can mute your mic at this. Oh, thank you. Roy, let me just clarify. Yeah, out there in that ridge pole, there was a document that was pasted up there. It's kind of like an advertisement to take one and for a free survey or whatever. Anyway, I guess the thing that was a little confusing to me is that this application is asking to go just 3.5 feet.
Right.
But I see this this drawing that was attached to the ridge pole, and I believe it's also in the packet, that shows the 15 feet allowed, but then it goes from the 15 feet allowed to 23 feet 10 inches is the proposed ridge height. Am I misinterpreting, misunderstanding?
Well, yes, sir. And I had to go through that with the applicant as well. This property's in the flood zone. So it's the 723 that matters. So you're up another 6 foot 6 inches. They also seem to misunderstand the idea that you know where the measurements were taken from. But we eventually have it correct, and the numbers in your packet and in the staff report are correct, and the drawings are correct as well.
So it's really from the elevation, the 723 that we're talking about. Is that correct,
Yes, sir.
Roy?
Right.
Okay.
And
All right.
most of his dimensions are to the ground.
Gotcha. All right. Other commissioners have questions of the staff? Tom?
Yeah, Roy, I was out there today and I think an applicant rep was out there, happened there. So we were talking about the uniqueness of the location of the lot, because it's like a double fronted lot or triple fronted lot because of the way it's configured. And, there's some concern about setbacks.
I was originally, but once he showed me where the front door was, it meets the setback.
Okay.
I originally had that concern, but it was only because I didn't know where the front door was.
Okay.
I was misguessing that it was on the same side as the garage. It's not. And because it's not, it does in fact meet the setbacks.
Okay.
Don, did you have a comment?
No, it's pretty confusing looking, but that additional height is I would say rather inconsequential. The only negatives, I don't know, didn't seem to hold a lot of water. I'm really not well enough versed to make any serious comments on this one.
Well, and that was the misleading thing, and I think that's where one of the negative comments came from. The ridgepole is exaggeratedly close to one of the houses, and it's many feet from there. And if they put that ridgepole as close to my house, it might scare me too.
Yeah.
But that's not where it goes.
And of course, the lot, as I recall, is pretty flat. So, I mean, it's just too close to maybe closer to the setback where it's supposed to be. And
there's actually a lot of distance between that house and there's none where the ridgepole is.
Well, I do like the interesting sign that the neighbor has on their property that'll run you off.
I'd just like to comment that while I would originally be concerned about Lot 13's opposition, I feel like the layout of the site, to everybody's point about where the ridgepole is, the layout of the site, if this is truly how they're building, it really, to me, negates the only truly impactful surrounding property.
I agree.
Any other questions of the staff at this point? Comments? Then we'll go ahead and ask the applicant to make the presentation.
Hello, this is Roberto. Thank you.
Sorry, Roberto. This is Alton. I'm sorry. I'm calling from Los Angeles. I apologize. I stepped out of a meeting. If you guys are catching a bunch of traffic noise, I do apologize. I own the property at 2308 Quail Run Cove, which is also like the property that I'm in. Asking for the height is at 22023 Redbird. So it's right across the property. So when I bought the entire the whole thing, and this is the last piece of property that I was going to build anything on. So I appreciate if we can get the height variance. It seemed like it was such a low thing, and there is no impact that I originally saw. And I'll be back in Austin on Saturday. But Roberto and Aaron are my representatives for the project, and I apologize. I think we moved the pole a couple of times just trying to get it right, and I think it's just a lack of us not knowing and doing the best we could at that. So I apologize if it needs to be moved again. We're happy to do anything that needs to be done. I know the negative comment. I know where that came from. That's the barking people and own a bunch of dogs next door, and I complained, and then they complained. So not a lot of love there, I guess. I wish it was different. But if you would like, Roberto can tell you the height that we would like to go to, and I just wanted to introduce him. His name's Roberto, and he'll be handling it. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I don't know if you can see on the screen. This is a lot. And then over here, I don't know if you can see it. We have a 716 on the ground, and the full floodplain is 723. So we have a 7 feet above. And then if it's 15 feet, we're a little short. So we're asking for the 18.5, because on the first ground, it's not going to be living area, only the garage and storage. And then, of course, on the top, the house. And then, we're planning to put the cinder blocks first floor, even though 2 feet higher than the flood, than the 723. So instead of 15, we're asking for 18.5 if it's possible.
Thank you, Roberto. Any questions of the applicant from the commission members? Don't see anything there. If that's the case, then we're going to head and we'll open this public hearing at 8:23. Is there anyone on board with us there that would like to make comments during the public hearing? Anyone? Bueller? All right. Well, if that's the case, then it's 8:24 and we'll close the public hearing and move on to any further discussion. Tom, I see you're unmuted. Did you have anything you wanted to mention?
Yeah, I just want to say I support this request. I think, again, the general area is relatively flat. So any impedance of views is going to be impacted by what's allowed to be built by right. And so I don't see where this additional few feet makes any difference on anybody's view. So I'm in support of the request.
Thank you, Tom. Anyone else? Mr. Brown?
I concur with Tom. I really don't see how the construction on this site impacts anyone's use of their own property or views. And I think it's an appropriate height for that neighborhood, given that everybody starts out with a extra height from to reach out of the floodplain. It really is a pretty minor adjustment.
Thank you, Richard. Anyone else? Don?
It's just out of curiosity. Some of the comments are very positive concerning these folks, but there's one that's Sassy and Rags LLC, and the notification mailing ID is 15, which is quite some distance. But the person says, I have 4 locations, and all 4 vote no. Do we know what the other 3 locations are?
No, all I can tell you is they're not in the notification boundary.
Okay, well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they, took the time to express their opinion. There's a couple there in favor. But people do have an opportunity. This format is still a bit frustrating to me. That sometime we'll be able to unmask and gather. Anyway, I digress. If there's no further discussion, would someone like to make a Anybody like to make a motion? Tom Monahan.
I will do so. For agenda item 21-1798-SP-E, I recommend that I make a motion that planning and zoning approve the request for additional height.
And I'll second. Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on this item? If not, Mr. Brown? Mr. Brown?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. And Ms. Davis?
Aye.
I see that thumbs up. And Mr.
Sometimes you say you
Hagler?
can't hear me, so I wanted to make sure you could hear and.
Oh, that's okay. Well, I have a whole family full of Aggies, so I understand that too. So sorry. Well, might have to. Maybe that's a symbol you should use. Mr. Hagler.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Jandro.
Aye.
And Mr. Monahan, since you made the recommendation, I assume that's a yes. And Mr. Zaleski second. So it passes unanimously with one commission member absent.
Thanks
All
to
right.
the council. I appreciate it.
You're more than welcome. Good luck on your house, and it looks like quite the place.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm ready to get out of California.
I don't blame you. I left there about 25 years ago, and glad to be here. So the next item, number 5, is consideration of a recommendation regarding a potential amendment to section 2.16, 2.18, 2.21, and 2.22 of Chapter 10 of the Lago Vista Code of Ordinances in order for the subdivision regulations to comply with Texas House Bill 3167 that requires all jurisdictions to act on plat applications within 30 calendar days or deem them approved. And you can bring us up to date if you like. I know this has been before us, or
Yes, sir. We brought this to you a while back, and there was a hesitancy to eliminate the noticed and published public hearing and go to instead just a public meeting. At the time, we were okay with that and have simply created procedures to get applicants to cooperate and delay their applications so that we didn't run into any shot clock problems. In case you guys hadn't noticed, it's gotten quite a bit busier. One of the reasons, we weren't too worried about it is the only new subdivisions were being done at Tessera, and we had a fairly cordial relationship with them and could get them to cooperate and not put us in an awkward position. That's simply not true anymore. If we don't change this, the staff is almost confident that you will have subdivisions deemed approved that you don't even get a chance to see. And this will at least get them in front of you. And of course, there's always the opportunity for an appeal. That will trigger a public hearing without having to deal with the shot clock.
And it
Ms.
also,
Olvera, did you want to make some comments along with Mr. Jambor?
yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. It also doesn't take away the opportunity for folks to make comments when the items are considered. There's still the opportunity to make comments. It's just not a public hearing. So public participation is still part of the process.
Thank you. I think with that, we'll, I guess the way it's laid out, I guess we can, any questions or comments that the members of the commission might have of the staff at this point. So, Tom, I see that, go ahead, Tom.
You know, the legislature's in session. Is there anything being proposed to give relief to this problem? Nothing?
Not to this one. Now, the material one there is, but not this one.
Okay.
These were part of the infamous same
Don?
2019 session.
Yes, Mr. Jandro.
I noticed that we basically have the same verbiage repeated several times.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And I ran into a snag on the first one that would apply to each successive one. We talk about the public hearings. The commission shall consider the preliminary plat in a public meeting scheduled within 30 calendar days of the date in which the application is considered complete. That's it. Then the next thing that we jump to is appeals. Shouldn't we say that this meeting, the results may be an approval or a disapproval? And if it's an approval, then it goes on to another layer. And if it's a disapproval, then we would have an appeal. Does that make sense?
No, we're not allowed. If you don't do it in 30 days, it's approved. And there is no second step of a subdivision now. It is basically a legislative act that the council has delegated to this body to make the final decision absent an appeal. Now that can be an appeal of a denial or an approval. It doesn't matter which.
Shouldn't that language be included? Or
it is. That's the section is there about an appeals. It doesn't say that only the applicant.
But the difficulty I have is jumping from the public meeting without knowing that there's going to be some result of the public hearing, and immediately jump to.
Section, sir.
Pardon me?
It's in a section of the ordinance that's before this. There is a, if you will, and I'll send it to you if you like.
No, I read English pretty well.
No, but it's not in your packet. Is my point. It is a section of chapter 10 that is not being amended that explains the procedures for all the different applications and who has final say so.
Okay, because I see the original submission, and if there are any problems with it, then there's one chance at correcting it, and then if it's corrected, then it's assumed to be complete.
Right. That earlier section says that for preliminary plats, final plats, and amending plats, that absent appeal, the final decision is made by this body. That's one of the first paragraphs. And I think it's in procedures, and it actually, I think it lists by person. It lists planning commission, and it tells y'all what you do for all of these different applications.
Okay.
And then it lists council and what they do, and it lists the administrative staff and what they do.
Mr. Jambor is right on target, Mr. Chairman. Section 2.13.5 titled processing procedures lays out what Mr. Jambor is describing with regard to final action by the council, appeal, the authority of the city council, the authority of the planning and zoning commission, the authority of the administrator. That's the section that I think might answer Mr. Jandro's question.
Would you cite that again, please?
2.13.5 processing procedures.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Silvera. Yes, Tom?
Yeah, Roy, I just noticed that you were changing for anything that comes to us from a public hearing to a public meeting, which question one is, what benefits us from changing that language? And then two, when you go to appeals to the city council, we don't say it's a public meeting, we say it's a public hearing. So why would we have a public meeting and council would have a public hearing, I guess is what is trying to be accomplished here.
Well, and it has to do with the legislation that we're referring to. The shot clock only applies to the final body, and you have a total of 30 days. A public hearing, however, in Lago Vista requires 30 days to even advertise it. So the deadline for a meeting 30 days from now includes a 30-day delay before we even go anywhere. So a public hearing for that initial approval or denial is not possible to meet the shot clock unless we get voluntary cooperation from the applicants.
Okay.
Now, the shot clock, however, does not apply to the appeal. So as soon as that shot clock is no longer, hanging over our head, we'll go ahead and use a public hearing.
And do the mail out to the 200-foot impact
The
zone.
whole bit. We don't have time to do that and meet the shot clock is what it boils down to.
No, okay. Thanks, I understand that.
Mr. Brown?
Thank you. Aaron, you mentioned a minute ago that the public would be able to provide comments by some vehicle to our meeting, but would not be able to participate in the meeting. Is that correct?
No, sir. They won't get mailed notice, but they will still have an opportunity because it is a public meeting. The public meeting laws require that the public have an opportunity to speak on any item that's on the agenda. So they can still make a comment. It's just not a public hearing, meaning they're not going to get mailed notice.
And how will they find out that the meeting is going to take place?
It'll be on the agenda, and then we don't we have the sign notice, Roy, on the property?
So my suggestion that Mr. Jambor go door to door is probably not how we'll handle it. Okay.
So you can suggest it.
I'll point out that signs on premises is lined through.
Yeah, no, we do have it in a different section.
Okay.
There is a specific requirement for the signs for a public hearing, but
all right.
And it's just simply there's no time deadline for the signs, which is why that struck through.
Okay, one more little shot, and then I'll be quiet.
No problem.
In section C, appeals, it says an appeals application must be filed with the department within 10 business days from the date of approval or denial by the commission. And if we don't approve or deny it, then
if you don't approve or deny it, it's
go back to 2.13.5.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, if you don't approve or deny it, if you don't take action, it's deemed approved. And it's not subject to the appeals, not considered part of the appeals process. It's deemed approved.
If you guys don't take action, you've done what the legislature did without your permission. You took the public out of it, which is what the legislature did.
We better be pretty well versed on this then.
Yeah, and the reality, and here's where they're coming from. These decisions are not as discretionary on subdivisions as you might think. It's a matter of, did they meet the rules? If they did, you approve it. If they don't meet the rules, you don't. And that's where they're coming from. They want this to not take a long time. And, we were manipulating this thing and basically subverting the intent of the legislature. But, you know, if we get ourselves in an adversarial situation, we were not on very solid grounds. And now we just realize that we're no longer having the luxury of only having applications from our good friends. That's just not the case anymore. It has been for the last year or two, you know, but we don't feel confident that that's still true.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
All right, Tom?
Yeah, right. This is more of a, I guess, put in the category of wordsmithing, but I've been trying to figure out what the acronym DRC stands for.
And it's also defined earlier in the ordinance. It's the
It's a
design.
TLA.
And just so you'll know who that is, that's me, Aaron, and Eric.
So what does it stand for? And you know that what I'm used to is when you first, in any section where you introduce an acronym, the first time you use it is you write it out and then parenthetically put in the acronym. Then you can use the acronym from there on in.
And,
So
it's the same complaint Mr. Gendro made. It's in there. It's just in a section I didn't present to you. And it stands, right.
If someone's
It stands
coming
for
to this
Design
section,
Review Committee.
well, I would still suggest that in this section, it's still, that practice be followed here as well. The DRC
Okay.
is coming out in the first time.
Thank you, Tom.
You should, I think.
I still don't know what
we
it
should-
means.
This is a
I
long
think we
ordinance.
should have I guess, a table of contents of all the TLAs that are out there in front of the city. So
What is TLA?
a TLA, 3-letter acronym.
What you need to do is just provide a hot link.
Well, and just so you'll know, there is an acronym that where you see those little asterisks in the middle of the line, that means there's something before it and after it that you're not looking at, and that if you want to go see what it says, you need to go look at the ordinance. That may be the part that's most important for me to explain to you. That's what that means. There's
Also
other parts of the there are other parts of the ordinance that aren't being amended that we haven't bothered to put in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, does that about do it as far as discussion and questions of the staff?
I have one question for Mr. Jambor.
I'm not surprised.
Well, thank you. Roy, why is it that the ordinance specifies plat drawings on 22 by 34 inch sheets rather than electronic submittals that would be much easier to review and disperse?
We in fact do that. There's a section before then that says you'll do whatever we tell you to do, digital or on sheets. But when we do want it on, if we do require paper for whatever reason, we want it to be 22 by 34 so that the half size 11 by 17 are actually to scale as opposed to something that we can't scale.
Okay. Thank you.
So the shot clock applies to all of the new.
One more time for Mr. Gendro.
So the shot clock applies to all of the new platting. But that's why when we get to replatting without vacating, then we go back to the procedure where you publish.
No, sir, and this is the only reason that part's in there is because that is a specific part of the Texas Local Government Code with some weird circumstances that may never happen. And Aaron, I had the same question you did, and I already gave it to Aaron. You know, isn't this in violation of the shot clock? You know, and we don't have an answer to that. The legislature may not have thought of that. That's the point.
Surprise.
Yeah, but that language is in the Texas Local Government Code. I didn't know what to do about it until I said, well, Aaron, don't we have to leave this in?
Okay.
So, one last question. If this ordinance is helping us to relieve a shot clock, what do we do for a buzzer beater?
That's Aaron's job.
Well, what's disappointing is there's no overtime.
I just go up to Baylor and get your question answered. So at this point, have we had enough questions of the staff? If we have, then we will go ahead and open the public hearing at 8:48. And I see that Mr. Roberts would like to take the screen.
Thank you,
For the
Mr.
floor
Chairman.
or whatever.
I apologize. I haven't been following this conversation as closely as I would like, but in light, I always get concerned, such as I heard a couple of you as well, when you go from a public hearing to a public meeting. The difference, as I understand them, is that in a public meeting, while the public can make comments, they're not allowed to ask any questions of the applicant, such as they can in a public hearing. And if you're in a situation, I guess what worries me is let's say you get a zoning, a developer or a group of individuals, they get their property rezoned to a higher density. And the argument from some is, it's just zoning. It's just zoning. We can address all those other concerns at plating. Well, if it's a public meeting and not a public hearing, there's not really much the public can do except make a few comments. They can't raise any questions to the individual who's trying to increase to a higher density. There's also no ability to trigger a supermajority vote by removing this language if more than 20% of the people within the 200 feet of the applicable property object to it and they don't want the increased density or they don't want this development. By changing to a public meeting, you would remove their any recourse they have to make it more difficult for the applicant. Is my understanding wrong?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay.
You want to cover it, Aaron? You want me to? The 20% only applies to zoning. It does not apply to subdivisions at all.
Okay.
The other thing is, in a public hearing or a public meeting, neither one of you allowed to do anything but address the body. If the body wants us to answer your question, the body, i.e. the commissioners or the city council, will ask the applicant or the staff. Otherwise, they're both improper. They're equally improper or proper as the commission or the council sees fit.
Right.
None of us are here to answer questions. You're here, in both cases, you're addressing the commission or the council.
So that's not necessarily inconsistent with my understanding of what differentiates the two, except that the questions, the public, when there is an applicant in a public hearing, and Aaron, please correct me if either of us here, in a public hearing, the public can ask questions of the applicant through the chair. The questions are directed to the chair. No, that's just wrong. Now, what differentiates the public hearing from a public meeting in terms of public comment?
Nothing.
Nothing at all? Okay.
Nothing.
So will this change?
They changed the law.
Okay. Will this in any way, this change, will it adversely impact any recourse that an aggrieved group of citizens might have to the subdivision? Will it? No? Okay.
No, you still make comments and you still have an appeal process regardless of which way the vote goes, whether it's approved or denied. So
The real impact is you won't get the letter in the mail anymore, assuming you got it in the first place.
that's it. It's the mailed notice issue. We're still going to do the signs. So there's going to be a sign on the property. It's just the mailed notice.
Well,
That's
and there's
really-
a legal ad, but nobody sees that anyway in Lago. We know that. But we do that because the state requires it. I don't.
For hearings.
Okay. Well, closing out my public comments, I'm always, I just want to make sure that the voice of the citizen is in no way minimized by this change. That's all. That's my primary
The
concern.
notice is the real thing, and if we had a way to do it and still do it, we would. I mean, we don't necessarily care for it either, but I don't. The only thing we can do is really ignore the clear intent of the legislature.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Like to see if there's any other public comments at this time. Maybe we can get to the discussion phase, Mr. Brown. If there's no other public, then we're going to close the public hearing at 8:53 and open it for discussion. Yes, Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question has to do with the role of the developer. Can he impact our ability to stay on schedule?
The public hearing, he could. That's the change we're making, is to make it so that no matter what he does, we can still get him in front of you in 30 days or less.
Are we, what if he doesn't make himself available on the exact date we would like?
That's okay. You can deny it in his absence.
I thought we had, is that grounds for denial?
I don't know if it's grounds for denial, but you can certainly do it if you have sufficient reason.
I see. Well,
and here's my point. Even if it's not legitimate grounds, and if you do it, he has an appeal right.
yeah, he does, but we don't. And I'm just saying, if he says, well, 30 days is up, I am assuming approval. And we say, well, but you never really came in and answered the questions for the commission and for the council at the times that we requested. And so we need more time. And he says, I don't choose to give you more time.
And you need to make that finding, I guess, is the distinction you would make, as opposed to, I'm insulted he's not here, I'm going to turn it down. You need to say, I have questions, they're not answered, I'm turning it down. There's a difference there.
Okay. Well, I hope it never comes to pass.
We've been scared a couple of times here recently.
Well, not all of our developers are local, and not all of them only have one project going on. And
like I said, we didn't have that many what we called undeveloped properties that were involved, other than Tessera and the Hollows, and those, we were able to control those people, and when they applied, we got a bunch more now with raw land that we're talking to, and some of those guys don't know what they're doing, and they're the ones that are going to get approved because of the shot clock.
The shot clock. But yes, David, did you want to make a comment during this discussion phase?
I just wanted to ask Roy a question. Will there be certain circumstances where we'll have to have a special meeting in order to meet the 30-day obligation?
Not unless there's a problem, but I'm not going to say never.
Okay.
All that stuff before the public hearing stuff about when it's deemed, complete, and the DRC, which is the Design Review Committee. That's all in there so that we can control the date when it's deemed complete, so that it falls on your regular scheduled public meeting. But let's say we don't deem it complete, they're given a certain number of days of correcting it. That's when we may have to say, guys, we got to have a special public meeting, or this is going to get approved in your absence.
Gotcha.
That's the, you know, there's no absolute where I can say, no, it won't happen. But the normal, it won't happen. It'll be when the ones require correction, you know, that's where I can't totally control it.
Got it. Thank you.
So should that happen, Roy, is there some clause in there where, you know, we go into some kind of an overtime category, you know, to compensate us?
Yeah, the buzzer beaters again.
Okay, any further discussion on this particular item? If not, then I'll make a motion that the Planning and Zoning Commission of Lago Vista recommends to the City Council of Lago Vista an amendment to section 2.16, 2.18, 2.21, and 2.22 of Chapter 10 of the Lago Vista Code of Ordinances in order for the subdivision regulations to comply with Texas House Bill 3167 that requires all jurisdictions to act on plat applications within 30 calendar days, or deem them approved. Does that cover it, Counselor? Thank you. Is there anyone like to second that recommendation? Tom?
Yeah, I'd like to qualify.
Tom. Was there a second?
Yes, the second.
Okay, it was seconded by Tom. And any further discussion on this motion? Yes, Tom?
I would like the motion to have a minor amendment to write out the acronym DRC long form in paragraph 3 at the beginning of the section, section 2, 2.16A3.
In other words, a clear definition of all TLAs.
Yes, I'm a big believer in when you're running acronyms, you shouldn't have to go doing a bunch of research to figure out what it means. It should be right there, convenient for the reader.
And what I might do, I might, just for information purposes, particularly when it goes to the council, include those other sections to help them understand it.
Okay.
I didn't realize, you know, but that's a good point. I mean, I keep assuming you guys know this stuff by heart, and you know, and I'm reminded you don't.
All right then. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the recommendation, Mr. Brown?
I'm in favor of the recommendation with the stipulation made by Mr. Monahan in his second.
Very, very good. And Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Oh, I saw that this time. Mr. Hagler?
Aye.
Mr. Jandro?
I concur with the stipulation, and aye.
And Mr. Monahan, both your amendment as well as an aye, is that correct?
Correct.
And the chair votes aye, and also an emphasis on all TLAs in the future. And the motion carries unanimously. And probably one of the highlights of any one of our Planning and Zoning Commission meetings is to get to this item number 6, where we can have comments from our council liaison, David Williams.
Yes, I would like to make one comment. Because of the amount of public hearings that you all have had and special exceptions, we've had a subcommittee to put the comprehensive master plan updates together for your review. And we're aiming to have that on your May meeting on May 13th, and for you all to be able to review it, and also be able to take it to City Council on May 20th, the following week, for them to review. And then when we get your comments and we get the council comments, we'll be able to finalize the comprehensive plan updates for 2020 and the goals for 2021. So just wanted to bring that to your attention, that the committee has been, the subcommittee was 3 council members, Arch Davila, myself, Paul Prince, Tom Monahan was on it for P&Z. Jim Kaysen was on it for building standards. And Roy was on it, Eric Belay was on it, and Mr. Chan was on it to represent the city manager. So just wanted to let you know that's coming down the pike. Any questions on that?
When will you make that document available for us to begin our review, Mr. Williams?
Hopefully before you meet, around the same time that Roy puts out his packet,
Yeah.
it will be in that packet for the May 13th meeting.
Just qualify a little bit. It's just we're more updating the action plans and status of the actions that are in the comprehensive plan. It's not an edit of the plan itself. It's just where we're at with the actions that are stipulated in the plan.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
all right.
and to
Yeah,
prioritize the workload.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that process. I'm sorry I missed that in your comments, Dave.
Yeah. I just figured you all were so busy trying to deal with all the necessary stuff. I wanted to try to give you just updating the actions that have been completed, and then for you all to be able to add what needs to happen moving forward.
Similar to the report that we gave you last year.
Yes.
On the same sort of thing. It's a little more detailed this time.
That's it. That's all I have.
Any further comments or questions of the city council liaison?
Larry?
Yes, Larry.
Yeah, I got one. Dave, any planning or of a date when City Hall will open up and maybe we will not be doing this via virtual go-to-meeting and being in place?
I asked that question to the city manager during our subcommittee meeting so I could have some sort of understanding. I've been told that they're aiming for the beginning of May, so that's all I know.
I don't mean to throw any rumors or wet blankets on it, but some of the volunteer work that I've done at the community center in Jonestown, we're being told that those kind of gatherings, based on what's coming down from Travis County and the People's Republic of Austin, that they're not looking at those kind of gatherings till sometime in the fall. So,
Aaron,
anyway.
do you have any updates on when that might happen?
I haven't seen any new Travis County judge's orders that would allow us to loosen it up. And I'm also waiting to see what the outcome of the latest tussle between the state of Texas and Travis County is.
Got it.
Yeah, I think that's probably where some of it is. The director of the community center is the source that I had, and she was being told that based on her county and representatives that it's more like this fall. So
Okay.
that's probably where the battle lines are drawn, and hopefully we can certainly do before that.
Got it.
Any other comments to our liaison? Thank you very much, David.
You're welcome.
And in terms of our consent agenda, all matters listed in the consent agenda are to be considered by routine by the commission and will be enacted by one motion without discussion. If discussion is desired, then that item will be removed from the consent agenda, will be considered separately. And once again, the minutes of last December, quite a body of work, and thanks much to Alice. Anybody want to make a motion or any issues or make a motion regarding the December minutes? Tom?
I'll make a motion that planning and zoning approve the minutes from December 10th, 2020.
I'll certainly second that. All in favor? Well, any discussion? See no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. The future agenda items, Roy, I guess my question is, where do we stand with the special called meeting at this time?
It's on. It's only going to be one application, not two.
All right. And that date again, Roy?
April 22nd.
Yep. And same time, 7 p.m., correct?
Yes.
All right. And our May meeting occurs to me that Friday the 13th falls on a Thursday in May. I don't know if that's really.
Mr. Monahan, do you want to try and get the task list in front of the commission on the 22nd, or do you want to wait till May about the prioritized list from the master plan subcommittee?
Well, given that Paul Prince is kind of the master of the document, it's kind of dependent on his time, I think.
That's right.
So
That makes sense. I think he was going to leave it up to you, though, to make that call, but.
I would say wait till the May meeting to give.
Okay. That means it's probably going to be on your May agenda, not the one later.
Thursday the 13th.
Yeah. I have another agenda item for future consideration.
Yes, Tom.
And this kind of comes out of the subcommittee meeting. It's something that's kind of been on our plate, but it's been underneath the plate, so to speak, that we haven't really taken up yet. But I think, speaking as one of the action items with CMP is that up at the airport, I don't know how familiar anybody is with the airport up there, but there's a desire for the east side of the airport to be rezoned from light industrial to commercial, to give a little more flexibility up there for the for businesses that might happen in some of those, I guess, the hangars and so forth, and to the east side. And so it's just to take up the a hearing to rezone the area of interest to commercial from light industrial.
I thought we just rezoned it light industrial a fairly short time ago.
Yes, sir, you did. It was the result of a recommendation in what was called the Airport Action Plan, that the actual recommendation was to create more of those commercial hangar opportunities. And because those guys are aviation planners and not land use planners, they use the term light industrial, or they use the term industrial. They didn't use the term light industrial. Someone decided that that meant it, they literally to be industrial. The negative consequence of that is it allows things like, scrap yards, open storage, and things like that, that is clearly not what they intended. What they intended was more hangars that include industrial type uses on the inside, not on the outside. So we have a couple of those uses, and we do our best to discourage many, 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 many more applications of that type. And we would like to have to be able to quit doing that and instead let the zoning ordinance take care of those kind of problems instead of the staff arm wrestling them.
Yeah, I think part of the problem was a few years ago, kind of before the legislature put the stop on building materials. I think there was some discussion back then. Light industrial kept the building materials part of our building ordinance out of the equation, give more flexibility, but now that's gone, so that was another.
Well, and just so you'll understand that the request is for C4, and when we rewrote we rewrote the C4 as the commercial airport district. When we rewrote those material ordinances a few years ago on the subcommittee you were on, Mr. Brown, we excluded the C4 and the light industrial, so that now you can make that change to C4 and not have that problem.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Any other future agenda items that the commission would like to discuss or recommend? Well, if not, then we'll see all of us on the 22nd of April. And thank you much for your time. And we are concluding and adjourning at 9:14. Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.